Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Randy. I hope everyone's doing well this New Year's Day. Here in Kansas City it's like 0 degrees and snow, so it's not the best of weather conditions here, but I hope everyone else is doing well. And this is a response to a video from Bill, whose channel is Bill's Vinyl List, which I'll link below. And I had promised him I would do a video on this topic that he started as a thread, but I don't know how many people are music lovers and collect stamps as I did. I don't really collect stamps that much now in my later years as I did when I was a kid, but he had some stamps from the Royal Mail, I guess. I think it's the Royal Mail that dealt with the great albums, like 12 of the greatest albums, and the stamps that influenced him, I guess, in collecting those albums. I think he's got 10 of the 12 so far. And the U.S. mail doesn't have stamps anything like the best albums, but they do have a lot of musical artists that they've put on stamps over the years. So I thought I would show some of the stamps and some of the artists that I have in my collection that are featured on these stamps, and I might as well get right to it. The first stamps I'm going to show is actually from Ireland. They've got the Chopin and Haydn stamps here. I don't have any of their latest 45s, but that's the first ones I'm going to show. Then also I have some of the U.S. postage stamps. They have the classical composers and conductors. And on here you have Eugene Ormandy, who led the Philadelphia Symphony. And if I can find it here. Yes, I needed to be a little bit more organized, but here is Eugene Ormandy and the Grand Canyon Suite, which is also featured on here in Fer de Goffé. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but this is Eugene Ormandy conducting. This is a wonderful album. If you have any of the Goodyear Christmas albums, you're going to find a Eugene Ormandy Christmas carol on there as he's conducting the Philadelphia Symphony. Also, you've got on here Leopold Stokowski, and I actually do have, I didn't look for all my 78s, but I do have a 78 of him conducting the Philadelphia Symphony Orchestra. The Blue Danube Waltz. He must have been before Eugene Ormandy. This is a Victrola record, which is the Johann Strauss tune. All right, before I lose everybody, maybe I better get into the rock and roll and rhythm and blues stamps and what I have here. Of course, the most famous and the best-selling commemorative stamp in U.S. history is the Elvis stamp. This was the first day of issue out of Memphis, Tennessee. I also got the ones with all the stamps, and it's kind of in like an album. And it was also in this list of all these rock and roll artists. I also got the CD the post office put out with kind of like a forever stamp, but with Elvis, but it's not the exact stamp, because that's the stamp right there. And the album I chose for the stamp, actually, well, I guess I showed the CD, but there's the debut, Elvis Presley. It got Blue Suede Shoes, the Carl Perkins tune, One-Sided Love Affair, Blue Moon, but several, Tutti Frutti, the Little Richard song, Trying to Get to You, which may be my favorite Elvis song, which was on the Sun Sessions. But of course this album cover was later paid homage to by The Clash in their album London Calling. And the next artist I want to show on here is Bill Haley. I don't have any vinyl for Bill Haley. All I have is a CD. Of course, Bill Haley started before most of these other artists did, but he's kind of the forgotten man in the rock and roll era. He did have the huge song with Rock Around the Clock, which was the #1, I think, for like 8 weeks. Uh, Bill Haley and his comments. But that song was in 1955, and he was 30 years old by the time that song came out. So a lot of people, I mean, he wasn't the young, up and coming guy. He was an older musician, I guess, for that time with with Presley and Holly and all these other younger people coming up. But he's kind of the forgotten man in rock and roll. A song you might want to check out about Bill Haley is called Haley's Comet by Tom Russell. It kind of talks about the forgotten person that he was and kind of a sad ending for Bill Haley and his comments. Next stamp I'm going to talk about is the great Buddy Holly, right there. And this is the debut album with the Crickets. In fact, it was just called the Crickets. I think this is the last studio album with him alive that they would just call the Crickets. The next one would be Buddy Holly with just himself. But this had their biggest hit, which is That'll Be the Day, the title came from the movie The Searchers, which John Wayne said several times in that movie. That'll be the day. But that's where they got the song title. Also got the great Oh Boy, which was a top 10 hit. And that is the song that he sang on the Ed Sullivan Show, which got him in trouble with Ed because Ed wanted him to change some of the lyrics around on that song, and Buddy Holly went out there and he did not. And Ed Sullivan said he would never be on the Ed Sullivan Show again, which he wasn't. And of course, he would die in a plane crash very young, and he wouldn't be able to anyway. But the great Buddy Holly, this is their debut. Also dying in that crash is the great Ritchie Valens, who was only 17 at the time. And this is the only thing I have by him is the best of Ritchie Valens. Got his big hit La Bamba and Come On Let's Go and the great ballad Donna are all on here. But yeah, another sad, tragic early loss for the music world, Ritchie Valens. And another person on here is Otis Redding. Very unlucky to be one of the big rock stars or R&B stars, as he died in a plane crash as well. This is the album, Mr. Otis Redding. It's a Star Collection. I think it's out of Germany, but it's kind of a cheap. Although the sound quality is very good, but the song selection is just not very good on here. It's a collection of songs, but Mr. Pitiful and Dock of the Bay are only big hits on here, and they could have picked a lot of better song. I had a lot better song selection than this, but still an interesting album. And I actually have the Stax Volt box set, so I have most of Otis Redding's recordings already. Next one I'm going to show is the great Clyde McPhatter, who was the original, I guess he's original, he was the early singer with the Drifters. And this is a compilation album, Rock and Cry, Clyde McPhatter. It's on the Charlie label. I guess I haven't shown any of these labels, but great label for reissues of some classic R&B and soul material. But Clyde McPhatter, Smokey Robinson said that he thought that he was the one that really popularized the falsetto tradition. But he had just a wonderful voice. My favorite song of his is A Lover's Question, which great Brooke Benton had a hand in writing. Also, the title track from here, Rock and Cry, is very good, like Deep Sea Ball. But just a wonderful voice Clyde McPhatter had. And the last one on here that I'm going to show is Dinah Washington, a great singer that I do not have any vinyl on her as well, but I do have this wonderful collection that the post office put out. It was a 2 CD set, and it's got a picture of her stamp on there. But great voice, Dinah Washington. A couple of others that I have, I guess I used the stamps because I only have the CDs the post office put out, and that's the Billie Holiday collection, which just has all of the greatest stuff. That was a really good compilation of her material on here. It's a double CD as well. And then there's the Ray Charles one. Can't believe I didn't keep any Ray Charles stamps. But those are those. And next one I'm going to show, the stamp, is the great Louis Armstrong. And the album I'm going to show for Louis is the one that was put out in the Classic series on the Verve label. And it's got Louis Armstrong meets Oscar Peterson, the great pianist. And it's just a fine collection of material. You see Ray Brown, Oscar Peterson, Ray Ellis right there. And then there's Louis right there. But a wonderful collection. That Old Feeling, Let's Fall in Love. It's two of the best ones, I think, on here. I misspoke on the Louis Armstrong one. I guess I said Classic series. It should have been the Acoustic Sound series. So next I'm going to show these stamps of the jazz musicians. You've got Coleman Hawkins on here. I do have a CD of his, a great tenor saxophone player. It's just got it's a fine collection from Decca. Really nice recording on here. I also have what came out Record Store Day. Is, you can see, if I find it on here, Charles Mingus on here. And this is the famous Mingus album that came out on Record Store Day. And I'm trying to get through these, and probably also on here is the great, if I can find him on here, the corner right there, John Coltrane. And besides the Miles Davis Kind of Blue, this might be the second most famous jazz album. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I Love Supreme, John Coltrane. There's the sax. But and the last one I'm going to show on here is a Kansas City native, and that's he was born in Kansas City, and that's the great Charlie Parker. And this wonderful collection came off the Savoy collection. Here it came out with these different great booklets, some nice pictures, and these 10-inch collections. These are played on 33 1/3. That's a wonderful collection for Charlie Parker. And that's the ones for the jazz stamps that I have. I also have the opera singer stamps, but I won't try to look at anything over that for you. Next, I can't remember what the stamps were called. If it was jazz vocalists or just pop standard vocalists. But it's got Ethel Waters, Ethel Merman, and Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, and who's the last one on there? Al Jolson. Of course, Al Jolson, most famous for being in the first sound picture, The Jazz Singer. This just happened to an album that I have. Fizz, You Made Me Love You on Decca is the Jolson story. And as far as Nat King Cole, this is actually a fantastic album that everyone should have in their collection if they like any of the standards. If you liked Frank Sinatra's Songs for Swingin' Lovers, I think you would love this. This is his album, just one of those things, with the orchestra conducted by Billy May. It's got some swinging tunes on here and some great ballads as well. But this is my favorite Nat King Cole album. And for Bing Crosby, I'm choosing this. It's got some Hawaiian tunes on here. Not in the best, I guess I didn't take the cover off. Not in the best condition, the cover-wise. But this is his album, Driftin' and Dreamin'. But he's got a great song on here. It's been a long, long time with the Les Paul Trio. But yeah, great Bing Crosby. Also, I guess I do have the stamp of Cole Porter. And like I said, Sarah Vaughan, the great singer, and I know I have an album of hers, but I didn't bring it up, so I'm just going to show that. And also, I guess I used all the stamps. Marvin Gaye, and used all the stamps on this one. Janis Joplin stamp. And all the stamps on this one, the Lydia Mendoza, Latin guitar. Right. Let's try to get this wrapped up here. I got some, for you country people out there, I've got these Hank Williams, Patsy Cline, Bob Wills, and the Carter Family. And I just grabbed the ones I have on vinyl. This is a Hank Williams. This was a series that they started where they were going to have all of Hank Williams' recordings in chronological order. So there's some songs you've never heard before on this album right here. I only got this one in the series. I wish I would have gotten more of them, but I did not. And then the great Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys with his big hits on here: San Antonio Rose, Take Me Back to Tulsa, Roly Poly, Time Changes Everything, and of course Tommy Duncan singing on several of those hits. But Bob Wills and the Playboys, and the last one, there's Patsy Cline. This is one that has a famous I Fall to Pieces on here. She also does Faded Love by Bob Wills and the Playboys, or the Bob Wills tune, Patsy Cline. And also have the Jimi Hendrix stamps that came out. And I'm choosing Axis Bold as Love. This album has the Little Wing, Castles Made of Sand. What's the other big one on here? 6 Was 9. But classic, kind of great rock with some psychedelic flourishes in here by Jimi Hendrix. All right, into the home stretch. The next one I'm going to show is, this is a unique combination to be on stamps. And you got Groucho Marx and John Lennon from the Republic of, what is the Republic of Abkhazia, which I think is an Eastern European country. I think some people see it as part of Georgia, but I think they think of themselves as a separatist state. But anyway, stamp with John Lennon and Groucho Marx. John Lennon album I'm going to choose is Rock and Roll. It's been kind of denigrated, but I think he does a great version on all these rock and roll stalwart songs. And I would recommend it to any Lennon fan. And the last stamp I'm going to show is with, well, I guess it's not the last stamp, but you got Johnny Cash stamp. This is this great album, Orange Blossom Special, with his hit from It Ain't Me, Babe, the Bob Dylan tune, and Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. He had 2 hits with these Bob Dylan songs. And the last thing I'm going to show is, because I forgot this when I was showing him, I just happened to grab it, is I have a program when the Charlie Parker stamp came out, and the program that they had in Kansas City, and then there's the stamp. I don't know if this is the first day of issue, but I know they had a big program. Of course, he was born in Kansas City, like I said before. But anyway, that's my showing of stamps and music. And I hope everyone will subscribe to Bill's channel, and I hope you enjoyed that. Even if you don't care about stamps, I tried to tell a little bit about some of the artists that were on the stamps. But hope everyone's doing well, and take care.